Welcome to the Business Growth Masterclass, where business growth is made simple. Listen as we interview real business owners and learn from their wins, their losses, and everything in between. Today's guest is the founder of Local LBK, which is a local media brand that is on a mission to help you find what you love in your own backyard. And he's also, as if that wasn't enough, he's also a facilitator with Leading Edge. And Leading Edge is a local business that provides resources and coaching for small businesses in rural communities all over West Texas. So if you are a small business owner in West Texas and you're looking to get plugged in to the local resources available to you, as well as some coaching for your business in rural West Texas, this is the episode for you. And without further ado, welcome to the podcast, Mr. Taylor McAlpine.
Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you, man. I've been wanting to get you on this for a while. Local LBK has been a staple in our household for any news, anything coming out in local small business, and so the branding is incredible. You've done such a good job with that.
Thanks so much. Means we're doing our job.
You guys are doing your job, and so I'm sure everyone listening is like, what did he just say in that introduction? And so give us a little behind the curtain, two separate kind of day jobs that you have. And so let's start with Local LBK. Mm-hmm. In your own words, like, what do you do? Like, teach us a little bit about that.
Yeah. I'll actually go back a little bit. I feel like I get to have a dream job, and my dream job is supporting local business owners and helping them achieve everything they're trying to do. And so with that, I wear two different hats doing the same job. So with Local LBK, we're a media brand. And so that is the storytelling and advertising side of that mission. Specifically with a name like Local LBK, it's going to be very focused on local Lubbock businesses and the hub city. And so if you're in Lubbock County, we want to help you know about your resources for shopping local and knowing what's going on over the weekend, finding fun things and trying new places.
Yes.
And so we have a weekly newsletter every Thursday that goes out, giving you a peek ahead of what's coming up this weekend and showing you the highlights of what happened over the week. And then on social media, we'll catch the day-to-day activity of what it's like living like a local, trying new places, seeing grand openings, going behind the scenes with your favorite brands and things like that.
That's always my pet peeve when people are visiting from the Metroplex or Austin or whatever, and they're like, yeah, there's nothing to do in Lubbock. What do you do all day? You go eat and drink, and that's pretty much it. And there's so much more. There's so much more. And I mean, obviously, like, you have to be intentional. We don't have, professional sports teams like DFW, but there are plenty of tech games, plenty of LCU games. There's so much to do in Lubbock every single day of the week.
Oh, right. One of the next projects we're looking at is doing a curated list. So whatever your interest is, you can actually kind of subscribe to your topics.
Okay.
And then from there, if you're big into wineries, let's keep up with their wine release scheduler when they're having tastings or special events. You like breweries, same thing. Coffee shops, same thing. And so helping people go even deeper into their interests so they can be more in the know about supporting local and have a good time here in the town.
How did you get into this?
Long story short is a guy named Justin Bernard. He was a serial entrepreneur back in Lubbock, the original owner of Sugar Browns back in the day.
Yes.
Anyone remembers that?
Okay.
And with that, he also opened West Crest Pizza. And he also had a place called Tumboco. Before all that was Cilantro's, a burrito shop downtown.
Okay.
And so he loved taking national concepts that were starting to see growth trends, localizing them, and bringing them to the Lubbock market. And so they all did well. People loved them. People still ask about them. And years ago, he sold them and made money and lived in Dripping Springs and left a legacy.
Okay.
So I worked for him at West Crest for about 3 years and worked with him in Tumboco, Lubbock's first co-working space, and just appreciated his heart for supporting local and supporting the local community, economy, how faith intersects with all of that, how family intersects with all that. And then from there, I was like, okay, I want to start a business. I'm in business school. I should start my own. So I started an Instagram account. And it grew from there.
Okay, so Local LBK started as an Instagram account.
Mm-hmm.
How many years ago?
2014.
Oh gosh. Okay, 11 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Dang, I knew it'd been around a while. Like that brand is so recognizable. I see it everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
11 years.
Yeah. So started as an idea up on one of his whiteboards. And I was naively thought, oh, how do you start a business? You start an Instagram account. And so from there, just started sharing what the life of a local looks like through a phone.
Fascinating. Okay, so today, Local LBK is a website, a Facebook page, an Instagram account, all the social media,
Yeah. So
as well as
multimedia platform,
yeah.
weekly newsletter, online directory for local businesses on our website, working on an events calendar to help you have more resources there, and then active social media on all your favorite platforms.
Okay, and then Leading Edge. How does that integrate with all of that?
Leading Edge is the more in the dirt, let's hold your hand, let's talk business and operations.
Okay,
And so I traveled 7 different communities throughout West Texas, places like Wolford, Big Spring, Denver City, Tulia, and the like. And so going there, setting appointments with their local business owners and having conversations like this. How'd you get started? Where are you trying to go? What are the tools you're working with? And how do we get there? And so from there, implementing things like EOS or Donald Miller's Business Made Simple and creating frameworks for them to understand, hey, let's have 3 goals, work on them throughout the year, keep you accountable, and make sure if you need financing, let's try to find that. If you need employees, let's make an employee handbook. If you need an attorney, let's find one locally so that they know your region.
Mhm.
And so just making sure they have the right resource at the right time.
We've had conversations and help guide me there that Leading Edge is a lot like Lita here, where yeah, you're providing a lot of those kind of traditional coaching, frameworks, accountability, etc. But you take it another step where you are helping them find local incentives or
Mm-hmm.
various other resources. Can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So in the world of economic development, we are actually going to be more similar to the Small Business Development Center.
Okay.
And so that is a branch of the SBA helping people find SBA loans and funding. We get to be the boots on the ground, actually going out into these communities, which for this area are slightly underserved by SBDC. They have a limited staff, and so they can't reach all these areas all the time. And so from there, we get to help them work with through their local EDC, like we have LIDA here in Lubbock. And we work with rural communities that don't have all the resources that LIDA has
Mm-hmm.
to be the hands and feet, serving them, helping them put together a business plan, talking operations, finding funding. And they get to use a portion of their sales tax most of the time to help incentivize these local businesses and getting started.
Very cool. Okay, EDC, what does that stand for?
Economic Development Corporation.
Okay. And in varying degrees, most cities have that,
Mm-hmm.
which is basically how can you use the local engine of that growing city?
Mm-hmm. They take a fraction of sales tax dollars that are generated, earmark them for the EDC.
Uh-huh.
They're usually their own nonprofit led by a board. The board is often appointed by the city council, and then the board hires their own director. Some of the communities I serve do have a director, some don't. But from there, I now go out and represent the EDC saying, hey, because of the support of the EDC, we get to provide this free resource to you. That's another part of this. It's free to the user. And we help them navigate those applications, navigate a 3-year pro forma, navigate a business plan and operations plan.
That's one of those like pseudo government entities that I think is undervalued and not talked about enough, because they're knowing what is the plan for the city. What is the city council like? What they're passing these various bonds, but what's the reasoning? What's the overall narrative that the city is growing towards? And a lot of times, a business owner, if you can help integrate some of your business plan with where the city is going, there are there are guardrails that you have to kind of drive in between, but there's a lot of local dollars that can help grow your business in your community, that also that money gets poured back into the community when you create jobs, when you're creating goods and services in your local community, that's just one of those things that I feel like a lot of small businesses don't know how to tap into.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess what's your advice on how does a rural town get plugged into something like that? And then like what would you say to like someone in Lubbock?
Great question. So, if you're in one of the communities we serve, reach out to your local EDC and say, "Hey, I'd like to set up an appointment with Taylor." And so, easy as that if we already serve that community.
Mhm.
If you're an unserved community at this point, we actually are in a growth period. And so we are looking at different EDCs. And as long as they meet the criteria and we think there's a good working relationship there, we'd be happy to serve them. And so reach out to us at Taylor at leadingedge.com. Leading Edge is edg.com. And we're happy to start a conversation. We're offering remote services, in-person services, and hybrid mix. So depending on your community's needs and what's available resource-wise, we can usually find a plan that works. So from there, here locally, we don't serve Lubbock or Lubbock County or outside of Wolfforth. So if you're thinking about doing business in Wolfforth, call me. Happy to talk. And then if you're doing business in Lubbock, reach out to the SBDC.
Great. If so many of these concepts I feel like are easier to grasp in through story. Can you kind of give us one of your biggest wins, for let's start with leading edge. Like what are some like good wins that you've had where you've been able to go and help a business get from A to B?
Yeah. So with the process, there's confidentiality. So I'll talk businesses,
Of course,
no names.
of course. Protect all names for
One
the
of my
innocent.
favorites is a woman I work with down in Big Spring, and she runs a craft business, and so art business. And when we started working together, she had a brick and mortar. We had to pivot away from that. That wasn't proving to be a sustainable model. And what she found worked was actually developing contracts for government organizations or paragovernment organizations and providing art curriculum and facilitation for the operations they're already doing. So for an adult care facility in the local library, she now is able to pay all of her bills through 2 contracts and take care of her kids as a single mom. And so that was a really cool story of seeing her pivot, continue using a skill set she's been growing in, and build contracts to support a livelihood. And
Very,
so
very
one of my
cool.
favorites.
So what role did leading edge play in that? Is that just helping connect them and get them set up? How do you even go about getting a government contract? Is that like kind of describe the role that leading edge helped?
Yeah, so
and
some of it
facilitate?
was just the initial idea of, hey, how can I grow my business? And so we helped them discover, oh, well, obviously there's direct to consumer, then there's business to business. And in this case, business to business worked out. So she was able to prove her value, and we helped her in forming the pitch. And she was able to get contracts accepted and has multiple years of renewals at this point. And so it's been really cool to see her continue to get traction, continue growing them, and have a great success rate in closing those agreements. So that's been really exciting. And then from there, they continue marketing. Now we're just in a maintenance period of, hey, things are running smooth. Let's just catch up. Is there a new thing you can offer? Can you change the next agreement? How is life? Are you doing what you need to in the rest of things outside of business?
That kind of mulling over a business model and what is profitable. That's one thing that we always, in stag coaching, that's like one of the first things we always go to is examining all of your offerings, all of the products and services that you sell, and kind of looking at each of those and determining, is this profitable? Like each individual thing that you're doing, like, is that sustainable? If you were to grow that, would you make money or would you continue losing money? And that's one of those business lessons that isn't taught in school to a varying degrees depending on your major, but isn't really taught. And so you have a lot of, in my experience, there's a lot of like tradesmen or people who are really good at this thing. They worked for somebody, whether it's marketing or plumbing or whatever, and they were really good at that. And they're like, well, I'm going to go start a business and do that. And they're really good at their skill. But a lot of kind of the bigger picture discernment evaluating your business, kind of those bigger picture things.
Mm-hmm.
It's not taught. And that's one thing that I really think is valuable about coaching and getting plugged into, EDC resources is how can we look at the big picture of your business and like, is this sustainable?
Mm-hmm.
You having a brick and mortar store, like the overhead of that rent is due every month,
Mm-hmm.
and are you going to be able to sell X amount of art pieces every month? And is that sustainable in this market that you're in?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the kind of big picture business thinking that isn't taught all the time.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why we like to boil it down of can you sell enough plates of spaghetti? Can you sell enough widgets? Can you sell enough cups of coffee to pay your bills? And from there, what's your risk tolerance? And
Yeah.
so knowing like, hey, what's the end goal? If this is just to create jobs for your family, maybe you have this much risk. But if it's like, hey, this needs to be my retirement, that's going to be a different level.
Mm-hmm.
And so we work through all those things and help align it to make sure it works or scale it down. A lean startup model of what's the minimal viable product. And so I was working with a client down in Big Spring and they just want to start a business. And so from there, one idea was like, man, my daughter's really good at horse training and breaking them in, but that's going to take land and a building and a barn and all this other stuff and horses. Well, what's the minimum viable product of that? Can you buy a truck, a trailer, and go to people's properties and do it for them with their already existing horses? Let's look into that one. Let's crunch some numbers there and see if the return comes out different. And so letting them analyze things, making decisions for themselves, and just understanding, oh, I had this preconceived idea of what I think business or success should look like. And maybe that's the end goal still, but how are there other ways to get there?
Local LBK. Tell me biggest win on that side. What did that look like?
Biggest win on that side was about 2 years ago. We landed a great contract providing video services and advertising for one of the biggest companies here in town. And so for us, that was super exciting and it's been a real game changer. And so that is helping us learn how to replicate that offering and have new conversations. And so without them, we probably wouldn't be having a conversation right now.
Tell me, obviously, protect names if necessary, but like what are some of the offerings that you're able to bring to this local business?
So we kind of a 3-prong approach with Instagram. That's where we do most of our outreach. We have a brand that's recognized, and so people trust it whenever they see all we do is promote other local businesses. And so we usually start a conversation there. Hey, are you trying to get in front of more people? Are there content services you're needing? Photo, video, graphic design, things like that. Or from there, are there ways that you just want to be more in the know and help get your information out there? And so that's where our newsletter comes in. So from those initial outreaches, learn what they're looking for, what their goals are, and plug them into our different resources. And then with guys like you, y'all are building out a great local ecosystem here of if they need coaching, if they need funding, we try to plug them into those resources. And so we don't have to be the solution. We just want to make sure businesses are successful in town. And so because the end goal is to make Lubbock a better economy, better community, and we need thriving local businesses to do that. So we don't have to be the answer, but we want to make sure they know it.
What do you feel like is what's like your unique ability within local LBK? Like what's like your wheelhouse, your jam, where you feel like this is what I'm the best at?
From my experience, I think Lubbock is full of silos. And so I think my job is to be a connector between silos. I've gotten to know people in the arts community, the small business community, the government side, the real estate side, and some of them know each other, but not many, or know actually intimately how they all work. And so with Local LBK, it's let me have great conversations with people of what are your goals? What are you trying to accomplish? How does your organization work? Who do you work with? Who do you want to? Things like that. And so I just get to be a connector.
I couldn't put my finger on it, but I completely agree. That is one thing that you're very good at, is kind of seeing relationships and seeing connections between people that, they're working on this. I think this business over here could help.
Mm-hmm.
If they collaborated, they would both, 1 + 1 would equal 3.
Mm-hmm.
How did you develop that in yourself? How did you discover that about yourself?
Um, I'll give a shout out. A friend named Leanne Lagasse. She has her own people coaching business, and with that, she's a big fan of the Clifton Strengths.
Mhm.
And so took that assessment probably 5+ years ago. And all of my core strengths, top five, were either relational or strategic thinking. And so one of them was the interconnected. And so my brain thinks in ecosystems, and I think everything is connected, even if they know they're not. And so I just try to find those natural connections and facilitate.
Dang. All right, you had that in your head. You had that canned. Uh, Tell me about, I mean, all life and business, isn't all wins. Tell,
Oh, no.
tell me about some of the losses that you've taken along the way, and what were some lessons learned that you kind of reiterated or changed your approach to solve.
Oh, good question. I think personal stories are always the best with these.
Yeah.
So personally, with Local LBK, realizing what my strengths are of I am not the content creator. I'm not the one behind the camera. I'm not the talented videographer. I'm not the great, talented media person anymore. I learned that one years ago and passed off those responsibilities and been able to meet really cool people that are really good at it now to let them do that. But probably one of the hardest ones was COVID. Our whole business model had to change. Early on, we were a kind of a local directory still and a rewards program. We had a little plastic cards, and when you supported our members, you got deals and discounts. And when the pandemic happened, couldn't do that anymore. We had actually just launched an app, the biggest investment I'd ever made in my business. And right after that, everything shut down. And so that was probably the hardest lesson learned of how do you pivot when your core business model, we didn't know how long it was going to last, but for the time being, could not operate anymore. And so that was a hard one. So swallowed a big loss on that one. But luckily, I never had to depend on Local LBK at that point financially. And so we stopped invoicing all of our businesses. We said, hey, we don't know what's coming. We want you to keep the dollars. We want to help live out our mission by making sure y'all survive. And so we did fundraisers. We helped promote people for free, help people find their dining options and to go, what their different status was, if they were open, dining meals, delivery, all that kind of stuff. And so everything pivoted and we kept chugging. And luckily, United Supermarkets is the one that came along and said, hey, we love your mission. We love your story. We love your audience. And we want to keep supporting this. So that's the ones we do video production for and are great advertising partners with us.
Okay. In COVID, you just told all your customers, hey, don't worry about paying us. We're not going to send invoices for a period of time.
Yep.
How was that? What did they say to that?
Most were appreciative. Some were really stressed and didn't even respond, in all honesty. But the rest of them acknowledged it. It was a lot of goodwill. And I think that's why when people think of Local LBK, there is that positive response of we're never going to be pushy with a sale. It's not about the dollar. It is because we're trying to impact our community and economy, but not in just the transaction. And so there's a lot of other equity we can develop.
Dang, dude, that's hard.
Oh, it was.
When COVID happened, when that hit all of the businesses, there was so much fear. There was so much unknown. There's so much of that. And you had the fortitude, personal belief that like, okay, we're going to do this for free for a little bit. And from that, you guys were able to develop a relationship and a contract with United Supermarkets. That's incredible. Like that's
it's not quite
that's
that direct sequentially, but that's where we've ended up.
That's like God's provision.
Oh, for sure.
Is that like that? That's that trusting. That's that God math. Where you're like, this math doesn't make sense, but God's going to figure it out.
Oh yeah, and it sounds even sillier when I say that relationship. luckily I knew the people on the other side, but it started with a DM on TikTok. And so just by reaching out saying, hey, let's collab, led to a whole other conversation.
Gosh. Okay. United Supermarkets, for those that aren't in the Lubbock market, that is Albertsons,
Mm-hmm.
like one of, if not the biggest supermarket in the US. But here locally has been United for
Our
decades.
Albertsons division is United Supermarkets family, and they go from New Mexico to DFW.
Wow. Okay.
I think it's 100 stores and growing. So,
wow.
but
So
because their headquarters is here in Lubbock, they care about that message. They want more local products on their shelves. They want to show where their produce is coming from. They want to show that they care about the communities they work in.
amazing. Okay. So what are you doing for United now? Like, what is that
Yeah. So
advertising look like? Obviously they have their own advertising, but what does that look like for Local LBK?
So their social media team works with other creators, and we're effectively treated as a creator with them. And so we produce a dozen or more videos for them that they use across their banners. And we have an advertising side on ours where we post about them and tell their story as well.
Wow. Okay. And how long have you been doing that?
Almost 2 years.
Okay. Cool. What a big contract. That, I mean, I can't imagine the amount of validity that brought to Local LBK.
Oh, for sure.
Did that lead to other advertisers, other clients just from that relationship?
In conversations with them now, but definitely.
Dang, that's so cool. Okay, tell me, what does the future look like for Local LBK? Like, what is it? What are you excited about? What are you working on now? To go from an Instagram page to contracts and providing advertising for United Supermarkets. Like, what does the future look like?
Local LBK. I was in the Texas Tech Accelerator in cohort 6, so really appreciate the curriculum and things I learned through going through that program. And the thesis is still the same: of can we build a fully sustainable business model? And right now in Lubbock, the answer is yes. It is it is sustainable and profitable. But from there, can we build out the advertising product a little more? Can we go multimedia across platforms? Build out the resiliency of advertisers to reach the numbers we need to. And then once we do that, the question turns to what's it look like to do this in multiple communities? And the nice thing is, Local LBK is not unique. There are brands like ours across the nation in mid-sized markets. And so can we take what we've learned and help them develop their own ecosystem and create more resiliency in their own communities?
A couple of copies ago, you were showing me some products that you guys were developing from like a map of Lubbock where you could kind of hover over your own neighborhood, and it had like the restaurants in your area, the entertainment, anyway. Can you kind of talk about, is that still in the works, or is that already live?
It's functional on the website. And so we call it our neighborhood program. And so you can go to locallbk.com and scroll about halfway down the homepage and start exploring Lubbock through what zones you live in.
That dang. Okay. I need to share that with some of my relatives that are touring tech today. That's a really cool resource that if you want to figure out, what do I even need to do in, the southwest Lubbock where we live, like what is their new restaurant wise, entertainment wise, event wise? Like, that is such a good, easy resource.
And then one of the new things we're launching is our A to Z guide of Lubbock. And so it's going to be a digital and physical copy of just what are the highlights of Lubbock, Texas. So hopefully for a lot of visitors, either in hotels or Airbnbs, you'll be able to start seeing those.
Man, okay, you need to get plugged in with home builders and the apartment association to advertise and things like that, because that is, resources like that are incredible.
Yeah, so would love to have those conversations.
Leading edge. So Local LBK continuing to perfect the business model, and then eventually, start to branch out into other markets. Leading edge, you're serving 7 local rural communities.
Yeah, that's my territory. In total, we serve about 13 or 14.
What does the future look like for that?
Keep growing. It's been around for 14 years. And so it's steady, it's proven, it's been working. But now we're at the point of what's it look like to scale a little bit. And so within our region, there's a handful of communities that we think are more than fitting. That would be a good match for our services. And then from there, what's it like to expand outside of West Texas and the South Plains?
You said communities that kind of fit your criteria. Describe that. What is kind of a criteria that makes sense to move to another territory?
Yeah. So for us, population size is one of them.
What's that?
Usually communities under 30,000.
Okay.
And so with that, we understand like, hey, you're going to have unique problems being a rural community. And we know those really well. And so we want to be able to play a part in being a solution for you. Second is going to have an EDC board that's on board with supporting local businesses. And so with that, do you have a good stack of incentives, grants, things like that, that we can actually help you deploy to better support your local businesses? And then third, culture of here in West Texas, we do things on handshakes and who knows who and things like that. So from there, it gets a little bit tricky of when you start operating outside of a territory where that's the style of business. And so here in West Texas, just about everyone knows leading edge if you're in the economic development world. And so what's it look like to go to Houston, DFW, places like that?
Very cool. I am excited about, we haven't said this at all in our podcast yet, but the collaboration that we are working on together.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
With Local LBK and Stag Business Coaching, we're actually getting close to launching our first cohort of a group coaching and kind of a workshop setup where we're I think our first cohort we're shooting for around
8 businesses or so.
Eight businesses that can meet monthly and work through our curriculum and work through working on your business, getting them out of the day-to-day and more, strategically leading their business to what they've envisioned their business to look like. And so that is a collaboration that I'm really looking forward to, more of a group setting where you can kind of, we foresee, obviously we're working through our curriculum that touches all 6 areas of every business from, leadership to sales to marketing to your product offering to, what to do with cash to what to do with financing, touch all of those areas, but also the collaboration with all the businesses within that cohort. And so, we're going to problem solve together. And so each of those meetings, one of those businesses will bring, their number one issue that is keeping them from attaining what they want in their business. And we're all going to work on it together. And you're going to get collaboration. You're going to get introductions. You're going to find people that can help solve those problems. And so that's one thing that I'm really excited about. I feel, on the marketing aspect, especially, you bring a unique perspective in Lubbock that I think is going to be awesome. And we're going to be able to help some business owners. So I'm really looking forward to that.
It's fusing of my 2 worlds. And so it's finally my community with the business coaching side, and we're getting to fuse those. So excited to be collaborating with y'all.
I can't wait. And so our first cohort, we're shooting for April.
Yep.
So if you're listening, reach out to Taylor and me and Kellen. All right. I think it's time for a fire round.
Let's do it.
Okay. Taylor, what's your favorite movie?
Favorite movie? It's going to sound silly. In college, I would frequent the Walmart bargain bin for like the $5 movies. And I would get Troy.
Yes.
And I watched that thing so many times. The storytelling behind it. Wait, scratch that. So Troy and or Kingdom of Heaven.
I never saw that.
It was Orlando Bloom. Great movie. In my mind, just the commentary of a son who lost his father, who comes to effectively claim his kingdom, and all of the character development along that of who am I going to be? What am I going to stand for? Why am I doing this? Who is this for?
I never saw that one.
Definitely worth a watch.
Okay. Kingdom of... we watched The Dog Out of Troy in college.
Oh, that's a good one too.
Yeah. Okay. What is your favorite, other than the Bible, what is your favorite book?
Can I say two?
Sure.
Start with why. Big Simon Sinek fan.
Mm-hmm.
That one was probably pivotal in me understanding who I am, why I want to do the things I'm doing. When I read that thing or saw the TED Talk probably 10 years ago too. So that has been highly influential on me. And then E-Myth, Michael Gerber.
Okay. Start with why. Pretty self-descriptive title on what that's about, really understanding why you're getting into what you're doing. And I think that's such a good exercise, especially in times like today where, the economy is struggling. And, if you don't have a well-discerned purpose in what you're doing, you're going to get burnt out and you're going to be exhausted and you're going to be, in a different way, feeling stress about your business. And so that's a great one. The E-Myth, Michael Gerber, classic book of, the entrepreneurial myth of how easy it is, how, how rich you're going to get immediately. And that's not true. But there's a lot of, kind of guardrails that he teaches you in that book to get started.
Yeah. Are you the technician, the manager, the entrepreneur? So understanding your personality and how that fits in within your organization's needs. And then from there, the critical role of systems, making things repeatable and scalable. So love it.
Great book.
And then the way he uses story of the bakery throughout, if it was a real client or not, it doesn't matter. The way he gets to use that as a tool to illustrate the principles works super well.
That's what like differentiates those business books for me, is like the guys who can deliver those lessons with a story. It's like, that's like the secret sauce in business books. That's like Shoe Dog and books like that, where it's like this narrative, this journey that they're telling this story. And then, there's these little business lessons sprinkled throughout that I think that's what makes it great.
Yeah. I've never sold a pie in my life, but that story resonated.
So. Yeah. Okay. And then this is a unique question. What is one piece of commonly heard business advice in your industry that you don't necessarily agree with?
That is a tough one.
So in marketing and business development, business coaching, what's something you think you hear often that you don't agree with?
One I have mixed feelings about is Cody Sanchez.
Okay.
Choose your heart. The principle works great of like when you have the consequences of your decisions and where those end up. So choose hard things to hopefully get better results and higher expectations of yourself. But on the opposite side, I feel like that also is overlapped on like business doesn't have to be hard. And so a lot of people overcomplicate it. And granted, you will go through a lot to do business, but maybe that's a mixed feeling of when I agree of even within business, you can choose your hard, but most of the time the hard is not the choice of like for local LBK. And I think that's the start with why idea. When you have that organizational or personal alignment, it'll come naturally. And so the obstacles that come in the way, yes, there will be obstacles to overcome, but they don't have to be hard. It doesn't have to feel like work.
Yeah.
You might put in a lot of effort and things like that, but it doesn't have to be hard. So
interesting.
I probably butchered that one for you, but
no, that was on the fly. Choose your hard. And so Cody Sanchez, when she talks about that, is like, you can choose to be overweight or you can choose to go to the gym at 5 a.m. every morning. Choose your hard. And she continues that illustration into business. You can choose for your business to struggle, or you can choose to do the hard thing of making 50 calls a day. And so I think that's important to discern with, because there's kind of that hustle culture, that's embedded in that of like, how can we discern of what is your why? Do you want your business to be, make $1 million a year or make 100,000 a year? And like, what is that version of hard? I like that. I like that.
So I look at everything as both and most of the time. So there's not much I usually outright disagree with. There's nuance.
I like it.
So
I like it. Okay. How can people get in touch with you? How can people do business with you?
yeah. So if you are in one of the 7 communities I serve within Leading Edge, reach out, Taylor at leadingedge.com. And we'd happy to set up an appointment. If you're an EDC director by chance, reach out to me or Maddie, and we'd be happy to have a conversation to better serve your community and your local small businesses. And if you are a business within Lubbock County, either through our mastermind program that we're going to be launching here in April, we'd love to have you be a part. Or if you're wanting to better tell your story to a very local audience, we're here to help.
Great. Man, thank you so much. I am excited for this one to come out, and I'm excited to collaborate with you guys. April's going to be here fast, and I can't wait for that.
Love it. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. All right. If you enjoyed that episode and you got a lot out of that, go ahead and click subscribe and keep coming back because there's a lot more where that came from. And if you are a business owner who feels stuck in your business, you feel stuck in your business and you can't work on your business, go to our website, stagcoaching.com. And in the upper right-hand corner, click the link to book your free consultation. And in this free meeting, this free consultation, we can either give you a current business valuation and some tools to increase that valuation and achieve what you're looking for. Or we can spend that time working on the number one issue negatively affecting your business. And in just that one meeting, you can leave with a few actions to try to move your business out of where it's currently stuck. So I enjoyed it. Looking forward to the next one, and we'll see you on the next one.